Tuesday, February 7th. We've had a meeting. Anya and Bird announced it. 10 a.m. at the dining table. This is how it started. Bird, opening his notebook. Is everybody ready? Fred? Fred, staring at the ceiling, picking burnt skin from his lips. Yeah, what? Bird, are you ready? Fred, ready for what? Bird, we need to talk. All of us. Fred, grinning. Right, go on then. Bird, looking around the table. Okay, let's start by finding out who we all are. I'll set the ball rolling. My name's Will Bird. I'm 38 years old. I was born in Southend and moved to Chelmsford 10 years ago. I share a house with my partner, Lucy, a call center manager. I've been a management consultant for 8 years, mostly in the banking industry. Before that, I worked in customer service training. In my spare time, I enjoy paintball games and tinkering with radio-controlled cars. Linus? Me. What? Bird. Tell us about yourself. Me. Why? Bird. Communication and trust. Me. Trust? Anya, to me. Listen to him. He's trying to help. Bird, smiling at her. Thank you. Turning to me with a fake smile. Hey, come on. We have to work together, Linus. We have to pool our resources. Me. Hey, I know. Bird. We need spirit, determination, solidarity. Me. What we need is a way out of here. Fred. Fucking right. Anya. Christ. Fred, glaring at her. What's the matter with you? Anya. Nothing. Fred. Yeah, fucking nothing. Tell me about it. You and your fucking nothing. Ever since you got here, all you've done is sit around on your tight little arse doing fuck all. Then this fat Ponce comes along, and all of a sudden you're up for it. Bird. Now just a minute. Fred, giving him a threatening look. Yeah? Anya, sneering. Oh, that's right. Why don't you hit him with a saucepan? Fred. At least I'm trying. Anya. You can say that again. Fred. Fuck you. Bird, hitting the table. That's enough. Fred. Fuck you too, fat stuff. Then Jenny started crying. We took a break. Anya and Bird went off down the corridor, and the rest of us went to the kitchen. While Jenny washed her face and dried her tears, I made some tea and talked quietly to Fred. You're frightening Jenny, I told him. Keep it down a bit, and go easy on the swearing. She's only a kid. Kids don't give a shit about swearing. Some of them do. Yeah, well, you're scaring her. It's not my fault. It's them, Bird and Anya. They're doing my head in. All this meetings shit. Yeah, I know. I don't like it either, but getting all worked up about it isn't going to help, is it? He looked at me, his eyes cold with violence. You know what I could do with them? He asked. All sorts, I imagine. You'd be surprised. An intimate silence hung in the air for a moment, dirty and hard. I couldn't break it. Whatever words I wanted to say were stuck in the back of my throat. It was all I could do to keep looking at Fred. His great stone head filled the room with unspoken menace. Then all at once, his eyes twinkled and his mouth broke into a grin, and he leaned across the table and clumped me on the shoulder. You know what our trouble is? He said. What? You and me? We've both been fucked over right from the start. My home is a big house in the country. It's got 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3 reception rooms, a wine cellar, a library, riding stables, a croquet lawn, and a swimming pool. My dad owns 3 cars. We have another house in California and a villa in the Algarve. And from the age of 12, I've had the best education money can buy. Yeah, Fred, you're right. Fucked from the start. After half an hour, we tried the meeting again. This time, we stuck to the basics. Who, or what, is our abductor? A psycho, a pervert, a people collector. What does he want? To watch us, to kill us, to keep us as pets. Where are we? In a basement, a cellar, somewhere near London? Somewhere in Essex? What are we going to do? Survive. Escape. How are we going to survive? Eat. Drink. Keep ourselves clean. Stay calm. Get organized. How do we get organized? The way we get organized, apparently, is by drawing up a schedule of duties, which has now been done. So, from now on, one of us takes charge of the shopping list, logging requests throughout the day, thinking about what else we need, then writing the list and making sure it's in the lift by 9 o'clock each evening. One of us does the washing up and general cleaning. Any rubbish, put it in a bin liner and put it in the lift. Put bin liners on the shopping list. One of us waits for the lift each morning, collects the shopping, and puts it away. And one of us cooks, twice a day, 9:30 and 6:30. If you want anything else to eat at any other time, you have to get it yourself. We take it in turns, a system, different duties every day. Another question we tried to discuss at the meeting was, how do we get out of here? And it was at this point that the meeting went very quiet, and one by one we all looked up at the grill in the ceiling. It looked back at us, mocking our silence with its cold white eye, all seeing, all hearing. Fred broke the silence. How can we get out of here if he's watching us all the time? We can't even talk about escaping. You sure there are cameras? Berta said. I nodded. And microphones. And you can't cover them up? What do you think this is? Fred said, indicating his burnt face. Sunburn? Muttered Bird, scribbling something in his notebook. Give me that, I said to him. What? Your notebook. I'm keeping notes of the meeting. Just give it here a second. He reluctantly passed it over. Pen? He passed me his pen. I shielded the page with my hand and wrote, We've all got a notebook. Keep your back to the cameras. Write down any escape ideas. Bring them to the table at 10 each night. We can discuss. Then I passed the notebook around. When everyone had read it, I said, Okay? It was okay. I said to Bird, Have you kept a written record of the whole meeting? Of course. I nodded. Right. Well, there's one more person to come. It'll be easier if you show him or her your notes rather than having to go over everything again. What do you mean, one more person to come? Asked Anya. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? There are 6 rooms down here, 6 plates, 6 cups. There's 6 of everything, but only 5 of us. There must be one more to come. Wednesday, February 8th. A long day. Nothing happens. We eat, we drink, we stay calm, we get organized. We all look terrible. Pale, drained, haunted. Anya is developing an unbalanced stare. When she's not in her room, she walks around looking busy all the time, but her eyes are permanently unfocused, like a caged bear at the zoo. Bird can't keep his eyes off her. He keeps scratching his groin and rubbing his face. Although he's only been here a short while, he's already got a thick growth of stubble on his chin. All over his face, in fact. He's a hairy man, is Mr. Bird. Fred's beard is longer, but scragglier, a bit like Shaggy's beard. You know, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Not that Fred looks anything like Shaggy. He's more like the Hulk, without the green skin. Imagine the Hulk without the green skin, with Shaggy's beard and junky eyes and tattoos all over his body. That's what Fred looks like. I don't know what I look like. I don't really care. You don't get any points for looking good down here. I feel pretty scummy, though, and that's not nice. No matter how many times I wash, my skin still feels dirty and clammy, like the dirt is underneath the skin. My head itches, too. The whole thing stinks. I haven't had a chance to talk to Bird about what day it was when he was abducted. Actually, that's a lie. I've had plenty of chances to talk to him. I just don't want to. As you probably guessed, I don't like him. He creeps me out. And anyway, it doesn't really matter what day it was. If he's lying, he's lying. There's nothing I can do about that. And if he's not lying and I've lost a day, well, so what? Who cares what day it is? 6:30 p.m. Time for tea. Yippee. 10:30 p.m. We've just had our first evening meeting. As it was my suggestion, I had the pleasure of collecting everybody's notebooks and reading their escape ideas. Jenny was asleep, so there was only 4 of us. 4 people, 4 pages. Apart from a neat little heading, Escape, Anya's page was blank. Bird had written, Dig? Communicate. Fred had suggested, Fire, note down toilet. And I'd written, Distraction, distract him, hide someone in lift. How? Who? Dig? I said to Bird. We're in a bloody basement. We're underground. Where the hell are we going to dig to? Shh, he hissed, pointing at the ceiling. Dig, I muttered, shaking my head. It was only a thought, Bird said defensively. I was only, brainstorming. You called that a brainstorm? Fred laughed. Bird blushed. All right, maybe it's not such a good idea. But what about the other one? Communication. Why don't we try talking to him? You think he'll listen? I said. We won't know unless we try. I already have. I didn't get very far. Maybe you didn't do it properly. Communication is a delicate business. It's not just a question of sending a message. You have to think about how the message is sent. Oh, right, I said, pretending to think about it. Content needs context, he said. Of course it does. He squinted at me. Are you taking the piss? No, I was just thinking, maybe we can ask him for a laptop and then send him an email. Or, better still, a text. Ask him for a mobile phone. Ask him for his number, then text him a message. Do you think that might do? Bird gave me an exasperated look. What's the matter with you? Can't you take anything seriously? You started it. He sighed and shook his head, tutting at me like I was an idiot child. I don't blame him, really. It was a pretty childish thing to say. But I am a child, remember? I'm allowed to say childish things. It's my job. And anyway, he did start it. He was sulking now. I shuffled through the rest of the notebooks and picked out Fred's. I wasn't sure what he meant by fire, but the other idea sounded promising. I wrote down, fire's too dangerous, but work on the message down the toilet idea, and then passed the notebook around. Anya read it, shrugged, and passed it to Bird, Mr. Sulky. I didn't think he'd even bother to read it, but to his credit, he took the notebook and studied the message, then wrote something down and passed it back to me. I glanced at him for a moment, feeling a tiny bit guilty. Then I looked at the page. He'd written, we'd need a waterproof container, something that floats. Small plastic bottle? Yeah, I said. Good idea. Let's think about it. Finally, I passed my idea, the one about the hiding in the lift. I said, I haven't figured out all the details yet, but I'm working on it. I got a couple of shrugs and a raised eyebrow from Fred, and that was about it. I ought to feel more hopeful, I suppose. At least we're talking, thinking, doing something. We're beginning to work together, and that's good. Because when you get right down to it, it's us against him. The man upstairs, Mr. Crazy, the man with no name. Call him what you like. Whoever he is, he holds all the cards. He's got us right where he wants us. All we can do is try to make the most of what little we've got. And what have we got? Well, I suppose we've got the advantage of numbers. We're 5 and he's 1. 5 brains against 1. And if I'm right, it should soon be 6. 6 against 1. Even better. 6 brains against 1. It's not much, I know. I mean, they're pretty mushy brains, and they're probably going to get even mushier if we stay here much longer. But 5 or 6 mushy brains working together is a lot better than 5 or 6 mushy brains working on their own. Do you see what I mean? It's like an ant thing. You know, like the difference between an individual ant and an ant colony? An ant on its own can't do much, but when it gets together with all its ant colleagues, it can do almost anything. It can build cities, capture slaves, and create underground gardens. It can rampage through the jungle, eating everything in sight. That's what we have to do, only on a slightly smaller scale. This evening was a start. It wasn't the greatest of starts, but at least it was a start. We're getting there. We're improving our chances of getting out. Not a lot, I admit, but, we're not ready for any rampaging just yet. But not a lot is a lot better than nothing. So, yeah, I ought to be feeling more hopeful. I ought to be feeling more optimistic, more positive. That's how I ought to be feeling. The trouble is, deep down, I can't help feeling it's all a waste of time.